Under the skies of Ouagadougou, the night was as silent as a whisper, filled with threat. In the palace, President Ibrahim Traoré, 39 years old, stood by the window, his sharp eyes scanning the city as it slept. The dry wind carried dust, but what sent a chill down his spine wasn't the weather. A sharp premonition clung to his mind. Something was wrong. For weeks, secret military plans had been leaking. Confidential meetings had become whispers in the dark. The enemy knew too much, and Traoré understood clearly. This was no coincidence. A shadow was lurking, right within his innermost circle. Burkina Faso, a land that had just risen from the chains of foreign oppression, now stood proudly with its gold, land, and its voice. Traoré had expelled foreign troops, restoring the nation's pride. But the great powers were not resigned. They hid in the shadows, weaving conspiracies through espionage and betrayal. That night, as the moonlight glided through the window, Traoré's phone buzzed. An anonymous message appeared on the screen. "The enemy is right beside you." The brief warning, like a knife cutting through the silence, made his heart race. Who dared send this? And why now? Traoré remained still, but his mind had already begun the hunt. He knew that in this game of power, truth was the sharpest weapon, and the traitor, no matter how close, could not remain hidden forever. The night in Ouagadougou was still, but in the heart of the president, a quiet fire was burning. The silent war had begun, and he, the lion of Burkina Faso, would not let the darkness win. In the deep darkness of Ouagadougou, when the clock struck midnight, President Ibrahim Traoré convened a secret meeting in the cold stone room beneath the palace. No lights, no phones, only the most trusted faces. But tonight, trust had become a luxury. Captain Moussa Kaboré, 28 years old, entered holding a thin stack of papers, but heavy as fate itself. With eyes burning with resolve, he placed them before Traoré. "We have a traitor," Kaboré said, his voice deep but as sharp as a blade. The document revealed a secret message hidden in a fake agricultural report, containing military maps, names, and secrets known only to the inner circle of the president. The name of the traitor sent the room into deadly silence. Colonel Salif Ouedraogo, 42 years old, a brother who had fought side by side with Traoré through the fires of war. He, with his warm smile and loyal eyes, sat beside Traoré in every meeting, holding every defense detail of Burkina Faso. Traoré's heart weighed heavy, but his face betrayed no emotion. "He has sold us to foreign powers," Kaboré continued, "for months. No one dared to breathe." Suddenly, a sharp noise echoed outside the hallway, a sound like metal against stone. Traoré raised his hand, signaling for an investigation. The soldiers returned, reporting nothing, but the air was now thick with tension, as if the traitor was lurking, waiting for the slightest sign. Traoré looked around, his eyes cutting through to the soul. "No one touches him," he ordered, his voice as cold as steel. "We wait. We watch. If there's a snake in the house, we do not strike immediately. We find its den." The room fell silent, but the hunt had begun. Outside, Ouagadougou slept peacefully, but within Traoré a storm was brewing, ready to sweep away the darkness of betrayal. Under the blazing sun of Ouagadougou, President Ibrahim Traoré walked amidst public handshakes and smiles, but his mind was a battlefield. Every word, every glance from Colonel Salif Ouedraogo was being discreetly monitored. Ouedraogo, with his calm and almost cold demeanor, still played the role of a loyal friend, but Traoré saw the falseness behind that smile. In the shadows, Captain Moussa Kaboré's intelligence team worked tirelessly. They tapped phones, tracked cars, and recorded every step of the traitor. Each night, Ouedraogo would sneak out of the palace, driving his black car unescorted, heading toward a dilapidated house near the busy commercial district of Ouagadougou, a place that seemed harmless, but Traoré knew it was the den of spies. Kaboré, with the sharpness of a hunter, had placed hidden cameras in a store across the street. One night, the screen lit up. Ouedraogo entered, exchanging a black briefcase with two foreigners, one from the U.S., one from Europe. In return, he received a folder containing Traoré's schedule. The evidence was clear, sharp as a blade. In the dark office, Traoré watched the video, his hands clenched, his heart breaking for the man who had once shielded him, now betraying the country. Suddenly, Kaboré reported, a strange car had been tailing him when he left the surveillance spot. He drove in circles around the city, his heart pounding, narrowly escaping the tail, but the risk of exposure made the air even more suffocating. Traoré did not let the pain overwhelm him. His eyes glinted with steel. He called Kaboré, his voice deep like the command of fate. "It's time." The wheels of destiny began to turn. Ouagadougou still shone brightly, but in the darkness, a silent battle was reaching its climax, where the truth would expose the traitors. Under the dim lights of a military base on the outskirts of Ouagadougou, President Ibrahim Traoré stood firm like an unyielding mountain, his eyes cold with both pain and determination. He had set a clever trap, inviting Colonel Salif Ouedraogo to a security meeting that he thought was routine. Ouedraogo entered, his confident smile as usual, but the room did not greet him with handshakes. Instead, 10 armed soldiers stood silently, and Traoré, with a voice that thundered like the storm, shattered the pretense. "You are my brother. Why?" The air was heavy like lead. Ouedraogo remained silent, the smile on his face fading like mist under the sun. Captain Moussa Kabore stepped forward, opening the black briefcase Ouedraogo had exchanged in the dark. Cash, tracking devices, and a USB containing every national secret were revealed before their eyes. "You won't go to prison," Traoré said, his voice cold as steel, "but you will confess." Suddenly, as the soldiers escorted Ouedraogo, an encrypted message shot out from his phone. But Kabore, with the reflexes of a hunter, intercepted it in time. That message, sent to a foreign contact, was the final piece of stubborn evidence. Ouedraogo was led down to the dark prison room below ground. No windows, no time, only the weight of silence pressing down on the man who had once been proud. Traoré stood behind a one-way mirror, watching the man who had once been his brother. His face showed no emotion, but his heart bled for the memories of days spent sharing the smoke of war. Ouagadougou outside still shone with light, but the truth had peeled away the mask in this base. A storm was coming, and Traoré, like a lion waking from slumber, was ready to lead the nation through the darkness of betrayal. In the cold prison room beneath Ouagadougou, Colonel Salif Ouedraogo sat huddled, his eyes hollow, no longer the proud soldier. 2 days without sleep, the silence pressed down on him like 1,000 stones. On the other side of the one-way mirror, President Ibrahim Traoré watched, his face impassive, but his mind was in turmoil. The man before him had once been a brother, once shared the smoke of war, now a traitor. Captain Moussa Kabore entered, placing the USB on the table, his voice deep as a command. "We opened it. All the secrets you gave to foreign powers are here." Ouedraogo bowed his head, silent. "They will abandon you like trash," Kabore said. "We are your only chance." Hours passed, no words. Then, like a wall breaking, Ouedraogo confessed. The U.S. and Europe had approached him a year ago, starting with flattery, then money, then promises. A house in Paris, a seat in the UN, power when Traoré would fall. "I thought they would protect me," he whispered, his voice breaking, "but I was just a pawn." Traoré entered, sitting opposite. Silence engulfed the room, sharp as a blade. "You didn't just betray me," he said, his voice as steady as stone. "You betrayed the mothers in the village, the soldiers who bleed every day." Ouedraogo dared not look up. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Traoré stood up. "You will redeem yourself. Help us stop them." A bold plan formed. Use Ouedraogo to send false information, turning the traitor into a weapon. Suddenly, Kabore received a report. A suspected spy had sent someone to follow Ouedraogo. His team staged a fake accident on the streets of Ouagadougou, throwing the tail off track, hearts pounding in a life-or-death race. Every lie sent out was a trap. Every message received a step toward the enemy falling into the net. Burkina Faso was no longer prey. Ouagadougou shone bright, and Traoré, the lion, led the hunt in the darkness. In a secret room at the National Security Headquarters in Ouagadougou, the flickering light from the screen cast strategic maps. Captain Moussa Kabore coordinated the hunt, his earpiece buzzing with the radio's static, his sharp eyes never leaving the target. A foreign spy, Martin Leclerc, contacted Colonel Salif Ouedraogo, requesting an urgent meeting at a safe house on the outskirts. "They want to rush the plot," Kabore reported. President Ibrahim Traoré, standing in the shadows, his eyes burning like a fire leading the nation. "End it now," he ordered, his voice resonating like fate's command. Under the cover of night, Ouedraogo entered the safe house, wearing a hidden mic and tracking devices, his hands trembling but his eyes firm. Inside, Leclerc and a European accomplice waited. "Does the president suspect anything?" Leclerc asked, his voice cold as a knife. Ouedraogo, maintaining his calm, handed over the fake documents. "He trusts me," he replied. Then Leclerc revealed the plan. "We must take down Traoré." Outside, President Traoré listened through the earpiece, his jaw clenched, his heart boiling with anger as his country was threatened. He signaled. Like shadows, Caboret's team stormed in, doors bursting open. Leclerc and his accomplice were restrained, guns aimed. Suddenly, Leclerc struggled, trying to destroy a communication device. Caboret, as swift as lightning, grabbed it, revealing the list of targets, Traoré's allies marked as prey. "You have no right," Leclerc shouted. "Not tonight," Caboret replied, his voice sharp. President Traoré entered, unarmed, only with the steel gaze of the one leading Burkina Faso. Leclerc looked at him with hatred. "You think you've won?" he spat. "I haven't won," Traoré declared, his voice echoing like an oath. "Burkina Faso has won." The next morning, the news spread across the world. Foreign spies arrested in an attempt to overthrow Burkina Faso. The embassy fell silent, weak justifications from foreign powers. Ouagadougou shone with pride, and Traoré, the indomitable lion, stood firm, defending the nation from the darkness. The morning in Ouagadougou shone brighter than ever, as if the heavens themselves felt the victory. Crowds gathered in front of government buildings, the radio echoed in the markets, and the people whispered in pride. The president caught them. They tried to destroy us, but he stopped them. President Ibrahim Traoré stood on the palace terrace, looking down at the people, his face serene, but his eyes burning with the fire of responsibility. He did not smile, for the war was never over. But today, Burkina Faso stood tall, unwavering before the foreign shadows. That night, in the National Broadcasting Room, Traoré stepped up to the podium, dressed in simple military uniform, no adornments, only the strength of truth. The whole nation held its breath, listening. "I speak to you not as the president," he began, his voice deep and resonant like the beat of a war drum, "but as your brother, your son, your soldier." He spoke of foreign conspiracies, of the traitor Colonel Salif Ouedraogo, who had sold the nation's secrets to those who sought to sow chaos. They wanted fear, they wanted division, he paused, his gaze piercing through the screen, but they have failed. The crowd outside erupted. Applause rang out from homes, tea houses, and even distant villages lacking electricity, but rich in courage. Suddenly, an anonymous message arrived at the broadcasting station, threatening revenge, but Captain Moussa Caboret's team intercepted it before it spread, maintaining the people's trust. Traoré raised his hand, his vow thundering like lightning. "I will never sell this nation, not for gold or power. Burkina Faso belongs to the people, and I swear to protect it with my life." His words spread across Africa, inspiring young leaders, causing activists to cheer, and making those who once doubted him nod in pride. Traoré was not just a president, he was the shield, the symbol of a continent rising.